Hey guys, Lee Michelle, Resistance Chicks coming at you March 5th, 2017. We are bringing to you a series of the Trump wiretapping, we'll call it a scandal.
Okay, so
right now.
What I want to delve right into is that this is a CNN article. It was actually linked to this from InfoWars, and it says, Trump is angry and frustrated at his staff over the Sessions fallout. Now, again, some of these things we can only take with a grain of salt because, again, none of this is all leaks and this is anonymous sources and things like that, and a staffer told us. But I wanted to go ahead and bring this to you because it made a ton of sense to me, whether this happened or not. It says the President Donald Trump is extremely frustrated with his senior staff and communications team for allowing the firestorm surrounding Attorney Jeff Sessions to steal his thunder in the wake of his address at Congress, sources tell CNN. Now, we have to recognize that CNN is the Clinton News Network. They are really fake news. So if they're spinning a story, it's going to show that, oh my goodness, Trump is mad at his senior staff.
Sure.
I would beg to differ. I'm not a mind reader, but I do know for sure that CNN lies, and they're never going to tell you a story the right way. So what I'm going to give you my spin on this. Trump came out of this speech, and everyone had to say it was a great speech. I mean, one woman was saying, well, who was that guy? I know that wasn't him. You know, was a Democratic voter. Who was that guy? Why wasn't he off the hook? Why wasn't he this? So Trump was feeling really good about himself because finally
everybody was saying
something. And here's the thing. They weren't praising him as wonderful like they weren't bowing down his feet. They said like one or two basic kind of nice things, and he was satisfied with that.
Right. But again, it was fake praise. It was false praise.
Sure it was, but
it's like when your enemy comes and says, you look really
What's
good.
interesting is that the way this is spun is that it was Trump who was mad at his senior staff for not recognizing that this could have been a thing and not handling the session thing correctly and stealing his thunder. Okay? This is actually, in me, it says that President was hot and exasperated and he says that
it says after the Sessions recusal, but really, in all honesty, if you guys just watched our other segment, Trump has every reason to be upset. Why Sessions recusing this is a huge deal because now the investigation is in the hands of a former Obama administration appointee.
So there was lots of explicit
and that's a big
blah, blah,
deal.
Blah.
That's why Trump was upset. Not that Sessions stole his thunder.
And they're saying that, as the source said, that the senior staff keeps getting in their own way. It says that the president had a fantastic week advancing his agenda. Trump is, and they just keep putting landmines in front of him. I mean, here's the thing, though. You have Democratic senators and House of Representatives who were calling for Nancy Pelosi, I believe, calling for his resignation. Chuck Schumer saying
Maxine Waters was
all kind of craziness, and then it was all tied to this Russian shenanigans. So I'm going to get off of that, and I just wanted to kind of give you that as like something to lock away in your head. Now, how did the White House press secretary Sean Spicer, how he handled it? He tweeted on Sunday, and you know what? I love the tweets because instantly it's going to give me what they are really saying.
Exactly.
It's not going
filtered through anyone else. Not even filtered through people like us. It's literally coming straight from the horse's mouth.
This isn't a source. I heard him say, no, I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
Okay? He says that reports revealing the Obama administration ordered intelligence gathering of the Trump campaign ahead of 2016 is troubling. So he says, reports concerning potentially politically motivated investigations immediately ahead of the 2016 election are very troubling. And he did the tweets because Twitter has this way of just putting you in a box. You have to say one of one, two of two. But that's basically what he says. And then he says, President Trump is requesting that as part of their investigation into Russian activity, that the Congressional Intelligence Committees exercise their oversight authority to determine whether the executive branch investigation powers were abused
in 2016.
2016, which is perfectly normal. Breitbart News reported extensively on the Obama administration's efforts to undermine President Donald Trump's candidacy, including the Obama administration filing a FISA report. CBS falsely reported on Sunday that the White House statement said a congressional investigation would include the Obama administration's intelligence activities. Just in, White House statement, congressional investigation will include. And so Breitbart, I guess you can't reach it from here. This one is this lady, White House Deputy Press Secretary, Sarah Huckabee. She's quick, and I like her a lot, and she's well spoken. Listen to how she responds to the CNN interviewer when asked. She keeps saying, "But the president tweeted that for sure this happened, and how? And you don't have proof. Do you have proof?" And she says, "We want to look into it." But the president tweeted it. Here's the thing: this whole time, Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, even Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, all these people were allowed to say that
that Trump had ties with Russia,
and that Russia made Trump win.
Yeah,
over
exactly.
and over again with no proof. Raise your hand if you have seen proof. And they keep saying it over and over and over again. Let's just listen to her speak here.
The investigation. All we're asking for cameras to explain what the president meant until now. So let's bring in here live White House spokesperson Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
These are extremely serious charges the president is making. Where is he getting this information?
Look, I think there have been quite a few reports. I know that Jonathan and others earlier in the program mentioned that it was all conservative media, but that's frankly not true. The New York Times, BBC.
Do you mean that CNN would lie? They would lie? Would it be fake news that they would just report it's conservative, but it's not? But it's The Guardian, New York Times, and the Washington Post also?
Once again, if you didn't see our previous clip, you'll need to go back and watch that. But it has
The first one lays it all out.
Exactly. It lays it all out that the New York Times literally said there has been wiretapping.
Right.
Have also talked about and reported on the potential of this having had happened. I think the bigger thing is, let's find out. Let's have an investigation. If they're going to investigate Russia ties, let's include this as part of it. And so that's what we're asking.
Was the principal source the Breitbart story, which links to the New York Times, but the New York Times doesn't say anything definitive. Donald Trump does. There is nothing...
What's hilarious about this is was the Breitbart article, I mean, could it be that he was listening and reading Breitbart, even though it links to the New York Times?
Equivocating about what he says. I just found out that Obama had my wires tapped. That's not looking into something. He says it happened.
Look, I think the bigger thing is, you guys are always telling us to take the media seriously. Well, we are today. We're taking the reports that places like the New York Times, Fox News, BBC, multiple outlets have reported this. All we're saying is let's take a closer look. Let's look into this. If this happened, if this is accurate, this is the biggest overreach and the biggest scandal.
The President of the United States is accusing the former president of wiretapping him.
I think that this is, again, something that if this happened, Martha,
if the former president of the United States accused Russia of hacking the election, but gave us no evidence whatsoever, I'm going to hammer that over and over again.
If.
I agree.
Why is the president saying it did happen?
Look, I think he is going off of information that he's seen that has led him to believe that this is a very real potential. And if it is, this is the greatest overreach and the greatest abuse of power that I think we've ever seen, and a huge attack on democracy itself. And the American people have a right to know if this took place.
Okay, the president, let me say again, the president said it did take place. Why does he believe these articles that you say you cite, and I'm saying they are not definitive? The Breitbart brings them all together. Heat Street, they have two sources with links to the counterintelligence community. That's it. Anonymous sources. The president constantly says he doesn't like anonymous sources, and he doesn't like leakers.
I love how anonymous sources don't count when it's something that's positive in this administration and against the former one. You guys use anonymous sources every single day.
But it is the president. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
But now that there are new anonymous sources, it doesn't matter.
But what's the bar there? What does the president believe?
Look, I think he's made very clear what he believes, and he's asking asking that we get down to the bottom of this. Let's get the truth here. Let's find out. I think the bigger story isn't who reported it, but is it true? And I think the American people have a right to know if this happened, because if it did, again, this is the largest abuse of power that I think we've ever seen.
Okay, let me just say one more time. The president said, I bet a good lawyer could make a great case out of the fact that President Obama was tapping my phones in October. So the president believes it is true?
I would say that his tweet speaks for itself there.
The Washington Post says this morning that senior U.S. officials with knowledge of wide-ranging federal investigation into Russian interference in the election said there had been no wiretap.
Well, they've also said there's no evidence of any wrongdoing by the Trump administration or the Trump campaign in coordination, but that doesn't seem to matter to the media. That point gets continued to be ignored over and over again. We've been on this for 6 months, and you guys continue to ignore that and continue to bring up the investigation. All we're asking is that we have the same level of look into the potential that the Obama administration wiretaps Trump Tower.
President Obama, through a spokesman, denied any direct involvement. Does President Trump not believe him?
Well, I think, they don't have the best track record. They said they had a cardinal rule. Well, frankly, that's just not true. The president himself got directly involved when it came to the email scandal with Hillary Clinton.
So do you not believe him?
The
You do not believe him when he says this doesn't happen?
Privately and secretly with Bill Clinton during the middle of an investigation. So to pretend like this is a very clean and credible source coming from, I'm sorry, I'm just not buying that.
Do you believe there was a FISA order, even if President Obama didn't order it?
I think there certainly could have been, and it sounds like there's something that we should look into and verify.
Is the Trump administration working now?
That's a little above my pay grade. I think that's something that White House counsel would have to answer, but I do think that we owe it to the American people to look into it.
If there is an order, there would have to be probable cause shown before it was granted, evidence of wrongdoing. So isn't the president, by saying this indeed happened, confirming that the investigation had enough evidence to get a FISA order?
Look, I'm not sure if they can create wrongdoing. They've certainly been trying to make the case for it. The FBI has said that this is BS. The House Intelligence Chair has said that there's no evidence of it. But I don't know that would indicate that intelligence services wouldn't have attempted to see if there was something at that point in October.
And a FISA court order wiretap is highly classified information. Why is it acceptable for the president to just tweet something like that out?
I don't think he's tweeting out classified information. He's talking about, could this have happened? Did this happen? These are reports that you guys in the media have been reporting.
He said it did happen.
Everybody acts like President Trump is the one that came up with this idea and just threw it out there. There are multiple news outlets that have reported this, and all we're asking is that we get the same level of look into the Obama administration and the potential that they had for a complete abuse of power that they've been claiming that we have done over the last 6 months, and time again it's been said there's no evidence there was wrongdoing. The FBI says this is BS, yet you guys continue to hammer and hammer of some false idea and false narrative that there's something there when frankly there just isn't.
I just want to say, Donald Trump started this on Saturday morning.
I'd hardly say he started it when there were multiple news reports prior to that.
Many months ago, President Trump has consistently complained about leakers. If these stories are true, if Heat Street has two sources they say are linked to counterintelligence, are you going to go after those leakers?
Look, we take every leak seriously in the White House, whether it is something that helps us or not. We cannot have people leaking classified information at any level, and we certainly take that very seriously and would not ignore that.
Have you ever heard these allegations from the president before?
I have not had a conversation with him about these personally before.
Had he consulted anyone before he tweeted that he was going to put these explosive allegations out?
I can't speak 100% whether he did or not. I'm not sure.
Couldn't the president declassify these things if he wanted to?
I don't think that's necessary. I think what is necessary is Congress doing its job. Let them investigate this. Let them do exactly what they've done on our end and see whether there's something there. And I think that there is a lot of reporting that indicates that there certainly is.
Do you think there should be a special prosecutor to look at this?
I don't think we're there yet. I think we need to let Congress do their job. I think that's where we need to start. And again, I think that's the first place to go, and we see what happens from there.
Can you tell us anything about the meeting that President Trump had last night with Attorney General Jeff Sessions? Did they meet?
I believe they had dinner. Yes, they did.
And the subject?
Look, he's the Attorney General of the United States.
Who recused himself.
He's one of the cabinet members for the president. We have a lot of activity ongoing, potential for an EO coming out at some point that would certainly involve the Attorney General, and I would imagine that came up during dinner.
Does the president still believe Attorney General Sessions should not have recused himself?
Look, the president believes that Jeff Sessions is a good man and that he didn't do anything wrong. So I certainly feel that he didn't feel it was necessary, but he also is very supportive of the Attorney General.
And did the White House ask Attorney General Sessions specifically not to recuse himself?
Look, the White House was not involved in the details of what that decision process looked like. I know the Attorney General met with the Ethics Council at the Department of Justice, and he made that decision internally and going through that process, not by direction of the White House.
And Sarah, I just want to go back again to the president's tweet one more time, and Sean Spicer tweeting today as well, reports concerning potentially politically motivated investigations immediately ahead of the 2016 election are very troubling. It sounds like the White House is really doubling down on what President Trump
as we should, Martha.
Happened.
If this happened, once again, this would be the greatest abuse of power and overreach that's probably ever occurred in the executive branch.
But what about
that
these
certainly deserves
you just
to
keep
be
saying
looked at.
If the President of the United States said it was a fact. He didn't say, I read a story in Breitbart or the New York Times or wherever else. He said, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower. That's not an if.
Look, I will let the president speak for himself, but in terms of where we are in the White House, our ask...
You're a spokesperson.
And I'm speaking about it right now.
But you're backing off of it. You're backing off
How
of
am I backing off of it while I'm saying that I think that this happened and I think that the American people have a right to know? And I think that we should get definitive answers. I think we need to put out hard facts that show that this happened.
Okay. That's what President Trump was clearly doing in those tweets. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Sarah. Appreciate it.
She really held her own. I mean, she didn't just hold her own. She kind of really clobbered that lady in a nice way.
She could take her.
She was very kind. But that lady just kept going back to the tweets and to President. And I like what she kept saying. President Trump's words spoke for themselves.
But at the end, she said, "We believe this is true."
Yeah. We believe that this happened.
Here's the thing: you can't report on false news. That is fake news. You can't be a reporter. Say you have a source.
Right.
And then it turns out to be a lie.
Especially, and you know why they don't want this to be kind of hammered in that direction? Is because it exposes the fact that all they were doing was trying to trounce and pounce on Trump. At the time when these reports were done, they were saying, we have these wiretaps and it shows, all of this stuff. And Trump is in collusion with the Russians and all this. And that's what they were saying in these articles.
And that's what they were alluding to.
Excuse me.
They were alluding to it.
Right, exactly. But what I'm saying is they don't want the attention to be drawn back to that, because then it's like, well, wait a minute, because then all that we said isn't true.
Because they got to the point where they saw the WikiLeaks and so the press just got crazy.
It did.
And they just started printing whatever they felt like doing. I saw in my own hometown newspaper.
Right.
Just start printing whatever they wanted to. They started to just do like 6th grade speech type writing where you just, I'm just going to write down whatever I feel like today.
Yeah.
Write your feelings for today. And I feel that Trump did this with the Russians. Right. I don't have any proof. I feel it in my gut, and I'm going to write it as fact, and then I'm going to make up false sources. Anybody can put a source out there, right? And so what they said, what she hammered the CNN lady on, was you guys use sources all the time. And what did she say?
She said, well, yes, we do.
But that's not what she said. But that's not Trump's
Bar. She's wanting to know what Trump's bar is set.
She says, but you keep your bar higher. So why can we? And so you could see, but that's how we play you.
Right.
That's how we play you. That's how we play the game. You don't like leaks and stuff like that. Okay, this is the game we play. If you lower your bar to a leak or a source, then we'd have to go down here and we're already scraping the bottom.
All of these reporters have pretty much gone rogue, and they've just started throwing up and just throwing out any sources. Their grandma could have called them and told them it happened, and they got a source.
Right.
Okay, and that's the bottom line. So
we don't know. Obviously, the president believes this is true. He's now has access to all intelligence.
And I know that's what kind of bothers me a little bit about why everybody is questioning if Trump has said that this happened, and he's got access to a lot more sources than we do.
This is he said, she said. Because we have yet again to see any collusion. We have yet to see. Everybody says, well, okay, now we haven't found collusion between Russia and Trump, right? Because they kept alluding to that, but once he's elected, they're not allowed to do that anymore, pretty much, because then they'd have to impeach him, and then they'd have to show their hands, and they got all twos, like a 2 and a 3 and a 2 and a 3, or I had a pair of twos, right? But here's the thing, Obama kept pushing this narrative the whole time he was in office. He would get up there. I mean, how many times do we hear Trump or now I'm doing it? Obama say, Trump is not going to be president.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
Right.
And so I'm going to take one little break and show you a funny little thing next. And then we're going to come back one more time to the whole FISA court and the proof and things like that for one more session on that. So
one more session on the...
This is huge. I mean, this is the big news. I mean, if we don't cover anything else, we have to cover this. This is...
All right, you guys, stick with us. This is Leah Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it's not a conspiracy theory if the former president had the current president
tapping your wires.
Yeah. Okay, like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications so you get an email every time we put out new videos. And find us on Facebook where we can interact with you guys there on a daily basis. And don't forget to come back because we got much more for you.
I was called